at Titan Medical Center, we provide first-class patient care. And we also do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy for males and females.
We also offer medical weight loss, vitamin and amino acid injectable therapies, and rejuvenation detox.
Along with those libido enhancers, you know you want to pleasure your partner, right? So if you want to feel better, look better, and perform better,
call us at 727-389-3220 to become part of the Titan Medical family.
Hey, this is the Game Triple H from the WWE. You're watching RxMuscle.com, the truth in bodybuilding.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as #AskDave, brought to you by Species Nutrition, Cuts Training and Fitness, and Liquid Sun Rays. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, news, life, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the tables. We now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, so yesterday you doubled down on why you think Kai Green will compete at the 2019 Olympia. So touch on that a little bit. But tomorrow you had an epic, and I mean epic, interview coming out with Lee Priest on an all-new Iron Rage, and a sit-down with Guy Cisternino, two very, very opinionated bodybuilders, two very, very opinionated episodes.
I love, there's certain people that I love to do interviews with, and Guy Cisternino is one of them. It's a natural thing. I know Guy since he started his bodybuilding career, so I'm very close to him in that sense. And he's one of these guys I don't have to talk to for a year, and then we can just pick up where we left off. He's so real, and he keeps it so real. And I can ask him anything. There's nothing I can't ask him. He never gets insulted or anything like that, and he'll answer honestly. So I think people are going to really like that interview. Plus, he goes off on Derek Lunsford in a good way, so it was a fun way. So you'll like that. Lee Priest lost his mind completely. All I got to do is come up with a good topic, and there's no censorship on this guy. So you guys will love those two shows for certain. Now I have a couple little things, a couple housekeeping things I want to do. First of all, I got my Lift Ugly shirt on here. And you can get these Lift Ugly shirts. A lot of people have been asking me where they can get them. You go to liftugly.com, and there's all different designs and everything like that. There's a Dave Palumbo design too, if you care to have me on your chest all day long. If not, there's a lot of other cool designs as well. Now, also, I always get t-shirts. People send me t-shirts, and I always encourage them, if you want to send me a t-shirt, I'll wear it on the air. And so I'm always getting t-shirts. So my good friend and my client, Giovanni Del Biondo, sent me this t-shirt, which I told him was a little disturbing almost. He looked like Jason maybe from the Friday the 13th movies, but I like it. I will wear it. I have worn it, so I wanted to show it off. I can only wear so many shirts on the show.
Wait, Dave, you can't talk about his t-shirt without talking about his performance from this past weekend. I know you were very proud of what he brought.
Yeah, I talked about that on the radio, and he won the super heavyweight class. He's a teen national overall champ that I work with. When he won that show, and then he moved up into the open. He wanted to actually do classic, and he just couldn't suck down to the weight class. I mean, I don't think he should actually. I know he's trying to do a show now at classic, and he's going to suck down, and it's going to be a bad experiment for him, but I told him to do it anyway. But he won the super heavyweight class. Here's his shirt. You can check him out on Instagram. He's got a really good following on there. Thank you for the shirt. I also, because everyone's always asking about Iron Rage, we have our own little RxMuscle store under all these YouTube videos. You can look at the bottom. Teespring is our store. I upload the different logos, and I make different shirts out of them. And the latest shirt I just uploaded was Iron Rage shirt. So if you guys want a nice blue Iron Rage shirt, I try to go away from the black because everything we always do is black. So Lee Priest wants me to put on the back. What does he want me to put on there?
Like I said.
Like I said.
Exactly.
He wants the like I said on there. So you can get the Iron Rage shirt on the Teespring store. I also want to bring up, what do I want to bring up? Oh, Titan Medical Center. Titan Medical Center sent me a new supplement, or I should say peptide from their store. They just added it to their arsenal. It's Thymosin Alpha 1. Now, that's not to be confused with the healing peptide Thymosin Beta, or TB as we say it, TB5 or TB500 as some of these sites have it as. Thymosin Alpha, okay, 1 is a immune system modulator. What it does is it actually upregulates your immune system. Or if it's too upregulated already, it downregulates it a little bit. But it basically modulates it. But most people have a lowered immune system, and that's why they get certain diseases. They're using it now on like people who have hepatitis, people who have like weird infections that they can't get rid of. But it really helps your immune system tremendously. And I just started experimenting with it, so I'm going to give you my feedback. But if you look at if you go online and you actually Google it and look at some of the research studies out there on what they're using this for, they're using it to cure cancer. I mean, this stuff is really, really impressive the way it works. They're using it successfully on melanomas, people have skin cancers and stuff like that. So check it out. If you haven't signed up with TitanMedicalCenter.com, you can go to their website. You can call them up. You could say RxMuscle Dave Palumbo sent you. They give you a nice discount. They do hormone replacement, testosterone replacement. They do HCG therapies. They do the baby making protocol that I give out to people. They have all those components there. You can get that. And they have all the healing peptides. They have the GH releasers. Once again, the good thing is that you go there, you get sent out to your local, Quest Diagnostics or LabCorp. You get your blood work done. They analyze your blood work. They go over it with you. You do a Skype consult with the doctor over Skype. It's super professional, and then you can tell them what your needs are, and if they can satisfy that, and your blood work, basically illustrates that you need that, they'll prescribe different things for you, and it gets sent to your house. You make a phone call, hey, I need my month's stuff, and they send it to you. It's super easy, and once again, everything's by prescription and made in a U.S. pharmacy, so I really love them. So I want to thank them once again for sending me that peptide, and I guess I'll keep you guys updated, on the results of how I feel on it.
Let's get to the questions. The first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. First question, what is your take on injectable Anadrol? I know you don't like oral, so you don't suggest Anadrol. Would you suggest the injectable Anadrol? What will be the difference in side effects from injectable and the pills? Can I use it in the mass gain cycle you have in the app?
To be honest with you, I've never used injectable Anadrol, so I don't know. They didn't have it when I was competing. It's still going to have the same toxicity as Anadrol, a little less because it's only going through the digestive tract once, but most of the toxicity comes from the liver breaking down the actual compound, the oxymethylone. So it's going to still have pretty much the same toxicity. It aromatizes very high, converts to DHT very high, makes you very strong. What I don't know is if the injectable will kill your appetite as much as the oral form does. I would think it would because it's toxic. I don't believe it's the fact that you're orally ingesting it that makes your appetite go away. I think it's just the level of toxicity in the body, and the liver just doesn't want to deal with the food. It wants to worry about breaking down the Anadrol. So, I see better results in people who are powerlifters. I see better results in guys who use it maybe pre-contest in the beginning of a contest diet because, at that point you're hungry. So you're going to eat because you're dieting. But when you're in an off-season situation where you're trying to force food down and then you take Anadrol, you just don't want to eat. So that's my problem with it. Now, I don't think anything is really bad for you in short cycles. So if you're doing 4 weeks, the most of the Anadrol at a time, and then take 4 weeks off, 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, you're not going to really probably present too much toxicity by it. The problem is, can you eat? If you're killing your appetite and you're making it almost impossible to get food down because you just don't feel like eating, then to me that's not a good drug to consider. Once again, I don't think you're saving a lot on the toxicity by taking it injectably. What it might, the question that I don't know is, will it still blunt appetite as much? And that's what you guys have to let me know. But once again, it's not a great drug to be using for long periods of time. Dianabols is almost as anabolic and as strong as the Anadrol, but it doesn't seem to have the negative side effects that the Anadrol does. It doesn't really kill your appetite as much. In some people it does, but not as much.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, following your workout plan and split, is it really a good idea to train shoulders the day after triceps, since the triceps are involved a lot when doing shoulder presses?
There's always something that's going to conflict with something else. So what it does is it comes down to which body parts are strong or weak for you. If you have weak, shoulders, I wouldn't do triceps the day before you do shoulders, obviously. If you have good shoulders, it doesn't matter, So I move things around. There's no right or wrong. There's 5 workout days in my recommended training. I recommend that you train each body part once a week, and I recommend 5 training days a week, 2 days off. Where you put those 2 days off is up to you. You can move them around. You can even move the days around. I just want you to get those days in And then obviously I list the sets and exercises that you should do. So it doesn't really matter what order they're in, because like some guys have really good legs, so they don't need to take a day off before they do legs. They can do legs after doing 3 body parts, 3 days of training. If you have weak legs though, you're better off doing legs after a day off, so you can manipulate those days around to satisfy what your requirements are.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. If you're not following us, our handle is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to Fernando Arroyo. Your opinion about drinking a cup of wine one night before a competition?
I'm not into the whole alcohol thing. However, let me preface this. I was doing my, I think it was the first USA Championships they did in Denver, Colorado in 1995. That was the year that Phil Heath won. Craig Titus threw his trophy. And I came in, I think, 7th at that show. I probably should have been top 5, but whatever. It was my first national show. I was just happy to be there. And the night before, I was so nervous. I was driving everyone crazy. It was actually the day before. I was driving everyone nuts, including the girl that I was dating at the time who was there with me. And everyone was miserable, and I was miserable. And I thought I looked terrible, and I just, nothing was going right. Steve Stone, may he rest in peace, came to my room. Steve used to be, he didn't do my diet, but he would always help me at the shows because he knew that, I was new to it, but he had a lot of experience, and it was just, he was a rational mind. He came to my room. I think my girlfriend at the time might have called him and said, this guy's driving me crazy. And he came to the room, he's like, I want you to order from room service a glass of wine. I said, Steve, I can't drink alcohol the day before. Sure. He goes, just have a glass of wine. I had a glass of wine, I passed out. I slept for about 2 hours, I woke up, I felt great. And I looked great. And I said, Steve, it worked. And I thought it was the wine. It was the fact that it relaxed me. I was very stressed out. I was probably raising my cortisol through the roof. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't relaxing. The best thing you can do before a show is to sleep, okay? I always tell people, get to the hotel room. Don't go walking around all over the place. Stay in the hotel room, eat your meals, watch TV, and take naps all day long. That's what you should be doing for 2 days before the show. That's the best way to look good. The worst way to, if you want to look the worst, go walking all over the freaking neighborhood, especially in Vegas in the 100-degree heat. Go walking all over, you'll completely dehydrate, you'll be completely flat, and you'll look terrible. So that's not what you want to do. So the question is, does wine do anything? Probably not. Like I said, it probably has more of a relaxation effect on people because it just chills them out a little bit. So in that sense, I think it's good if you're high strung. I wouldn't be using it backstage before going on stage like I see some people do, because you could pass out from it too. Remember, you have no water in your body, you're putting alcohol in there. Some people have a strong reaction to that. The last thing you need to do is trip on stage or be drunk, or, I've seen it before, because guys don't just drink a couple sips, they wind up drinking a whole bottle, and because they're thirsty, and before they know it, they're fucking drunk off their ass. Nicole Bass, may she rest in peace. 1992, Eastern USA, drunk on stage at the night show, fell down, lost the show. So take it for what it's worth.
Let's go to Poppy Rico 9. Dave, why do I throw up and get cramps for 2 days every time I train legs? I usually wait 1 to 2 hours after eating to avoid throwing up. I eat a little more carbs and sodium that day. My legs stay sore for like 4 days, to the point it's really hard to sit down or walk. Why does this not happen with any other body part that I train?
Well, think about it. Let's just look at the squat, for instance. What does a squat entail? You're putting a bar that weighs a lot on your back, okay? And you're going up and down with it. Now, granted, your legs are moving the weight mostly, but what's supporting the weight? Your entire body. That's why we say squatting builds mass on the entire body. It's really a total body movement. And when you completely, traumatize the entire body like that, it traumatizes the nervous system in our body. And when the nervous system is traumatized, it almost feels like you're shell-shocked. So after training, it's like you can't relax. Your whole body, my body used to tremor. I couldn't eat. I felt terrible. I would drink a shake right after because I could always gulp a shake down, and I would actually try to lay down and sleep. And sometimes I couldn't even sleep because I was so rattly from the workout. You shouldn't be sore for more than a day or so. If you are, you're probably doing too much. So that you might want to cut that back. But the throw up mechanism goes in line with traumatizing the nervous system. Some people's nervous system is very sensitive. I know people that can throw up by looking at something that's gross, so, or smelling something that's weird, they can make them throw up. So I'm not that sensitive. So for me to really throw up, I'd have to really, really be traumatized myself. But I would get nauseous. I would feel like a little like, oh, I don't want to eat. I feel terrible. I feel like I have the flu, I mean, in a bad case like that, you could probably take some Tylenol. Never take ibuprofen or aspirin because that kind of reduces that inflammatory response, which we don't want to do after a workout. That's kind of the signal for your body to rebuild itself. Tylenol is not an anti-inflammatory. It just kind of takes away the pain a little bit. So, I mean, like I said, in an absolute necessary situation, take some Tylenol. Otherwise, just understand that that's what happens. I used to feel that way, not quite as bad from doing legs too, because from doing deadlifts. Because deadlifts is another exercise you're using your whole body. Once again, the more you traumatize your nervous system, the more you're going to feel that.
Let's go to AWOL79. Post-competition, straight in a cycle to maximize the benefits of rebound to gain new muscle, or off to give your body a break and regain balance before going into the off-season?
So this is after a contest prep? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, a lot of people say to me, I got to take advantage of the post-contest rebound. I got to take advantage of the, that window of opportunity to grow. And I'm like, look, you've been on a cycle for 18 weeks, probably more. You got a ton of gear in your system. That stuff's not going away the day you take your last shot. It'll probably last for 3 or 4 weeks in your system. So the rebound you're going to get after the show is going to be with all the drugs in your system. In the meantime, you should be cleaning yourself out. You should stop taking your drugs. You should be doing your PCT. So that once again, you want to get off everything as quickly as possible so you can get back on again in 8 weeks. You don't want to prolong that time period by staying on stuff. Then you got to do another 8 weeks after that. So you definitely have to clean out at some point, and you got to let those receptors regenerate themselves. So you might as well do it right after a show. So as soon as the show's over, I tell people, just stop taking their shots. Wait a week after your last shot, take your HCG for 2 weeks, do your Clomid for 2 weeks, and stay off for 4 weeks. And that's it. And then you go back on. The first 4 weeks are going to be easy. You're going to look good. And the truth is, when you stop injecting stuff and adding more toxicity to the brew, so to speak, you actually get a good appetite. So I always found that when I would go off right after a show, my appetite was through the roof. Not just because I was off cycle. I mean, not because I was off the diet. It was because I had no drugs in me. There was no toxicity. Now my body wanted to eat and it wanted to grow. And I got great rebounds off that. I think a lot of people think if I'm not constantly injecting something, then I'm not going to grow. No, it's not the case. That stuff is going to be hanging around for quite a while. And sometimes you look even better because when you take away the drugs, you lose a lot of that water weight. Then you put the HCG in. It's like you still got the drugs in your system with the HCG. Sometimes you get a nice rebound off that contest prep. And I've seen with my clients that I work with, they all got a tremendous rebound. Now, some people insist on staying on something. I don't know why. It's unnecessary, really. And once again, you have to clean out anyway. And most of the people that are competing nowadays are doing off-season, for 6 to 8 months, and then they're doing, 4 months pre-contest, and then they're competing. It's time to go off. You've been on for a year. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would just go off right after a show.
Before I take the next question, I just wanted to say one thing. We have, between our Instagram questions and, of course, the ones we get on the Dave Palumbo Experience app, then ones that are DM'd not only to the RxMuscle account, but to my personal Instagram, we're probably looking at about 85 questions right now.
Wow.
Obviously, we're not going to get to all of them.
Well, in that same light, Sid, I wanted to say something. We're very close to 200,000 subscribers on the RxMuscle YouTube channel. So we love giving you guys free stuff out here. We put on all this programming on a regular basis. We take a lot of time out of our schedules to do this because we want you guys to have stuff to watch, because that's what I would want if I was coming up in the bodybuilding world. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. This way we know we need validation that you guys love us, okay? We're very superficial and egotistical, so give us that validation. Also, my RxMuscle, I should say my Dave Palumbo Instagram is almost at 100,000 followers, so if you guys haven't followed me on there, do that as well.
And my Sid Farr one is almost at about 900 followers. But in all seriousness, again, we say this again and again, we appreciate your support not only on our YouTube channel, but on our Instagram channel. What we're going to do is this. The ones that we don't get answered on this show, I'm going to take the best ones. I'm going to send them to Dave. Dave is going to do individual ranks on them. So again, we're able to provide answers to these questions because there's so many good questions that we get throughout the course of the week. And we want to make sure that not only obviously for the sake of the viewership, but the knowledge that you're seeking that we're able to provide it for you. So we're going to try to hit as many questions as we can over the course of the next 20 minutes. But like I said, if we don't get to them now, I will send them to Dave, and we will do our best to get them answered.
And then, Sid, if people are ravenous, question and answer type people, and they like to watch these shows because of the education aspect of it, you could join my Dave Palumbo Experience app. It's $29 a month. It's a library of all my videos I've ever done, all my writings that I've ever done. Plus, I answer questions on there daily, and then weekly I do a Q&A video on there. So that's even more Q&A you can get that's exclusive to the app. Plus, we put up workouts every week, new workouts to follow. So that's another avenue, because I know people are always looking to enrich themselves education-wise, and we're trying to put out a lot of information. That's another avenue. You can go to your iTunes store, your Android store, and download the Dave Palumbo Experience app.
Let's go to the questions again. Keto Alex UK, the highest protein, lowest fat ratio you would ever go on a keto cut?
Highest protein, lowest fat, is that what they said?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, I can't give you, everyone's different. Every person is different. I have, if the guy's
But
like
an
300 pounds.
Extreme example for a cut.
If a guy's 300 pounds, I'm going to have him eating 450 grams of protein a day probably, and he's going to be eating 180 grams of fat, so it's proportionate. I like to do about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein per pound that they weigh, and I like to do about anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 gram of fat per pound that they weigh. So, and that that variability is because everyone's bodies are different, in terms of, thermogenically how, fast their metabolic rate is. Some people I'll give them carbs too, in addition to the fat and protein. So it really depends on what the person's metabolism is. And that's where, having a coach that can assess these things, will create the right ratios of these macronutrients.
Speaking of protein intake, Milos Sarcev, long overdue for another episode of Guru Talk. Questions from 1987, Anthony. Your opinion about Milos Sarcev's latest video, eating advice about eating 5 grams of protein per 2.2, which I guess is 1 kilogram, 2.2 pounds of body weight.
Yes, that's about, not quite 2 grams of protein per pound. I came close to that back in the day. I don't think you need to eat that high of protein. The thing I do agree with him is that I think that everyone's body can assimilate different amounts of protein. They used to say you can't assimilate any more than 30 grams of protein per meal. Well, that's garbage, because it depends on how much muscle you have. Yeah, a 110-pound girl probably won't assimilate more than 30 grams of protein, but a 300-pound bodybuilder it could probably assimilate 70 grams of protein per meal. So there's no set ratio of set amount of how much protein you can absolutely absorb per meal. It depends on what your requirements are. In other words, if you eat 100 grams of protein in a meal, you're going to absorb 100 grams of protein into your bloodstream. What your body does with the protein, which is going to be turned into amino acids in the bloodstream, is up to what your body's needs are. If your body only needs 50 of that, it'll use 50 and it'll metabolize the other 50. So it'll turn some of it into glucose. It'll use some of it for energy. Some of it might go to stored body fat, very inefficiently, but some of it can. So there's a variability there. So you don't want to overeat protein. Now, the reason why, and I've said this many times before, but the reason why a lot of guys found that they have to eat almost 2 grams of protein per pound that they weigh to grow is because they don't eat enough fat. If you focus on putting enough fat in your diet from avocados and macadamia oil and nuts and whole eggs and salmon, if you put enough fat into your diet, you don't need that much protein, okay? What's happening is these guys are eating 600 grams of protein so they can extract the 150 grams of fat they need. And that's not an efficient way of doing it, because now you have all this extra protein your body doesn't need that you have to break down. And that can put a toxic overload on your body to do that, because now your kidneys got to get involved, your liver's got to get involved, and we want the kidney and liver flushing toxins out of the body, regular toxins. We don't want to have to deal with extra protein we're eating. So never overwhelm the system with more than you actually need. And that's why it's smart to sit down and map out, to ignorantly think you don't need fat and, I don't need to take an extra fat. I'll just get it from my protein. But you can't control what type of fat you're getting. It's stupid. Plus you wind up eating too much protein to get that fat. So eat your protein for your protein, eat your fat for your fat, eat your carbs for your carbs. Don't try to do all at once.
Let's go to old school Matt. I'm not sure if we've gotten to this question before. Dave, do you ever plan How about this? Getting on the Joe Rogan podcast. I feel like that would be awesome. I don't know if you've ever exchanged any overtures with him before.
You know, I've had a million people ask me about that. And I don't watch Joe Rogan on a regular basis. To be honest with you, I don't have the time. He does these 3-hour shows. I think a lot of his stuff is good because you know why? He's very down to earth and he's real about it. He has some strong opinions. I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with a lot of what he says. The problem with that is that, you know, I have had people reach out to him because I'm not going to contact them myself. He probably knows who I am. I'm in his wheelhouse. He's had Dorian on and some other guys on in our field. He's had Triple H on. Okay. I've had people reach out to him and request that I be on it. I think that's the best way to get me on there. If there's people who want to see me on that podcast, which I think it would be a good interview. I think that Joe and I can go back and forth, and I think I could ask him some good questions. I'll pull Howard Stern on him. I'll turn the thing around him because I have a couple questions I want to ask him about how he got into this, involved in what he does. Because I think what he does is really good, and he has a very wide, you know, variety of topics that he addresses. It's just not one type of a thing, and that's what makes him interesting. But if I think of enough people request that I go on the Joe Rogan podcast so that they get me on there, I think that they will make it they'll reach out to me probably and do it. That's usually how these things work. If I reach out, look, I have people who reach out to me all the time and want to get on my show, and I can only get so many people on at a time. And I try to get around to getting everyone who does request me if I think they're an interesting interview. The problem is sometimes out of sight, out of mind. But if I had 40 fans, you know, texting me to get this one person on, I usually go out of my way to get that on. So if you guys want to see me on there, send your requests into the Joe Rogan podcast. Say, get Dave Palumbo on there. He's a pain in the ass, but it'll be a good interview.
Speaking of, we've been getting a lot of requests about getting IFBB Pro Greg Doucette. I'm trying to find exactly who asked the question, but the point is we do get a lot of requests. So that is another prime candidate for our show, Guru Talk. Again, if you haven't watched Guru Talk, check it out on our YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist for Guru Talk episodes. It's a fairly new show where we bring on either, you know, pros or other bodybuilding coaches, the brightest minds in bodybuilding, where we talk about like the deep science behind training, supplementation, so on and so forth. It's good.
And I just want to say one thing. And we have had the late Matt Porter on that show as well. And I wanted to just once again say, I've said this a couple times on a couple different shows. I want to send my condolences and my prayers out to Matt Porter's family. It was a terrible thing, you know, hearing about him dying the other day. And I know a lot of people still mourning him and are very traumatized by the news. Once again, it's just another reason to go get checked out. You know, I just left the cardiothoracic surgeon I went to this morning because I told you I have an enlarged aorta. Who knows how that happened? It just happened in the last couple of years too, and I don't even work out hardly any. So you never know when these things happen. It's called genetics. You know, a genetic switch goes on, and then something goes wrong in your body. So luckily, nothing. I don't have to worry about anything right now. But at some point down the road, I might need to get it fixed. So you got to stay on top of these things. Guy Cisternino on his interview actually talked about the fact that he went for a cardiac CT calcium score after the Dallas McCarver, death last year, and he found that his calcium score was through the roof. He had like a 450 or something like that. So now he's addressing that, and we talk about that on the interview. So that's a really good thing. So you can't keep your head in the sand. You got to find out what's going on. And when we lose a really good person like this, that's just another reminder to you guys out there: don't sit back and just be ignorant.
So wanted to remind you, there is a GoFundMe for Matt Porter and his family. That fundraiser is up to $65,624. Wow. I mean, that goal keeps getting extended, and it's just another testament to you, the bodybuilding fans, the bodybuilding community, that when there is, something, a misfortune within the bodybuilding community, this community has always shown the ability to step up and rise to the occasion, and you've done just that. We'll leave the link below. This fundraiser will go towards benefiting Matt Porter's family. Again, it's blown past $65,000. Let's go to I Am Boy Omar. Best exercise for lagging biceps?
Don't overtrain them. That's my best advice. Most people who have weak arms overtrain the hell out of them. Why? Why do they do this? They figure they're weak because I didn't train them enough. I'm not training them hard enough, right? So they train more. Never overtrain a weak body part, okay? I mean, you can do it maybe for like a very short period of time, but in my experience, less is better. Let's talk about legs. I know people that have weak legs. They want to train their legs 3 times a week. I say, why are you training your legs 3 times a week? Your legs can't recover from once a week. How about we train them every 8 or 10 days? What? I said, your legs are not growing anyway with what you're doing. I got to fix my microphone here. Hold on 1 second. I don't want you guys to miss one word that I'm saying. I said, your legs are not growing, training them, 3 times a week, then I'm training once a week. Let's cut it back and go the other direction. And of course, I make sure they're doing the right form. I make sure they lighten the weight, work on form. I have them go make sure they wear orthotics in their shoes so they have the right foot placement and the correct balance to the. But just reducing the volume and the frequency, their legs start growing. They can't believe it. They're like, I can't believe I'm training my legs once every 8 days and they're growing now. I said, because you were overtraining them before. And I think that that's a big problem that people have. They overtrain body parts. It's the same thing with biceps. I had weaker arms. And they weren't weak, I had a very long arm. So I need to have a big arm on stage to balance the rest of my body. And I went to train, and I've said this before, I went to training my arms once every 8 days. So each body part got trained once every 8 days. I had 2 days off a week, and 2 of those days, those training days, were one was a bicep and forearm day, and one was just triceps. I think I did triceps and calves. I mean, I was literally in the gym 20 minutes, on the tricep and calf day, and that was it, and I was out. But I was able to really focus on that muscle group. I didn't overtrain them. I only did like 8 or 9 sets for triceps. I think I did like 6 or 7 sets for biceps on the bicep day. And then I did like 4 sets of forearms. But I gave 100% to that. And you know what? They freaking grew. They grew like I couldn't believe it. And just because I gave my body the rest it needed. And I did all isolation exercises for arms. That's another thing. And I learned that from Vince Taylor. Don't worry about doing super heavy barbell curls. If you don't feel it in your arms when you're doing barbell curls, then you're wasting your time. Even if you want to get some real intensification efforts or effects to your arm training, Vince Taylor sells his VT or Vince Taylor grippers. Those little balls, you hold them, you can do all these weird exercises with them. If you look at his Instagram and his Facebook, he shows you all that stuff. But isolation. Once again, I was going heavy, but I was isolating one arm at a time with cable movements. And you know what? Like I said, they grew. But you have to be patient, okay? It's not gonna happen in 2 weeks. But the truth is, if you've been spending 5 years trying to build your arms and it hasn't worked, obviously you don't know what you're doing. You have to kind of reinvent yourself and wipe away what you've been doing and start fresh. And that's what I did, and it worked. And that's why I'm telling you guys. I'm not telling you guys to do it because I don't think it works. I know it works.
Time for only a couple of more questions. Let's go to Stacked for Now. Do you take your vitamin D supplementation all at once or spread it out throughout the course of the day?
Vitamin D. Is that what they said?
Yes, vitamin.
Yeah, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. You can take it once a day. That's fine.
Billy G. Fit. Dave, I heard you say you lower clen going into a show. What is the method you use to make sure the clen does not hinder the carb up process, and does stopping the clen have a rebound effect?
Yeah, stopping the clen will have a rebound effect. That's why I don't stop it. So let's say I have people taking, I have them up to 100 micrograms a day, like 20 micrograms 5 times a day, or 20 micrograms 6 times a day. That's as much as I'll ever go. The last 2 days when I carb them up, and the day of the show, I only do 20 micrograms a day, 20 micrograms twice a day. And I find that doesn't inhibit carbing, but it lowers it enough so that you can carb up sufficiently without crashing off the clen. So you're still maintaining that clen look, which is like this dry, veiny look you get from it, but you're not inhibiting the carbing up process. Because the more clen you take, the more glucagon you produce, which glucagon is a hormone that mobilizes, that takes stuff out of the muscle cells. It takes the glycogen in there and turns it into glucose and lets it free into the bloodstream. We don't want that. We want to do the opposite. We want to store glycogen because we're trying to carb up. So that's why it's a good idea to reduce. I started doing this the last couple of years. I never did it before, and then I realized that, it was very hard to carb people up on clenbuterol. And so I said, well, just cut it back. I don't think cutting it out is the answer. People don't look good when you stop clenbuterol. It's cold turkey.
BE's 401 for the somatropin test kits. Is there 10% or 99% of HGH present? Will they both? I don't know how he says it. Will both results be positive? So I don't know if you can interpret what he's asking here, or is there a certain percentage that is needed for a positive result?
If there's growth, what he's talking about is the growth hormone testing kits I sell at DavePalumbo.com. It's made by the Roy Test companies. It's a dipstick test. You dip it in, you take it right out, you lay it on the table for 20 minutes. If you get 1 line, it means you have GH. If you get 2 lines, it means there's no GH in there. It means it's fake, okay? as long as there's GH in there in a decent amount, okay? Now, I don't know what the threshold amount is. You're going to get a positive result, okay? It's 99.9% accurate, the test, okay? So, once again, my experience, and once again, I haven't used, underground drugs, for 10 years, but in my experience, if people put GH in there, there's usually a decent dose in there. Might it be 10 or 15% off because it lost some potency coming over from China? Probably. But I don't think the Chinese are purposely, shortchanging you on how much GH is in there, because GH is very cheap to make. What they're doing, what you're getting cheated on is when you get no GH, okay? So if that test comes up negative, you just got screwed out of your money. That's why I tell people, if you're gonna use GH and you're gonna spend that much money, test the product, make sure you get it real. Once you know the stuff you're getting is real, you can buy more of it, and you know that, hey, it's the same lot, I just bought it from the same, I can put it in my drawer and save it, or put it in my refrigerator and save it, I know it's good. That's what I recommend you do. Because if you're gonna spend a few $1,000s, you might as well spend another $100 and test the stuff to make sure it's good. In my experience, okay, if the stuff tests positive and it is good, it's usually a respectable dosage of it, okay? Whether you have to take an extra IU or not to in your brain make it feel like you're getting enough, that's up to you. But the bottom line is no one puts like 1% GH in anything. It's not worth it. If you have the GH, you might as well put it in there so that you can make money. If you put no GH in there, people are not gonna buy the product anymore. The only people who scam you are people who put no GH in there because that costs zero to produce, And that's just my experience. Once again, I'm sure there's anomalies to that rule, but more than likely, if the stuff is positive, it's probably good.
One last from Martin Fit Official. Dave, what was your go-to meal prep back in the day? Did you prep everything in the morning or meal by meal? How long did it take to make? Would you bring food to the gym with you for post-workout?
Yeah, I brought when I would diet for a show, I brought all my food with me. And there was no cooler bags, and there was no six-pack bags like I sell on my Species Nutrition website. I brought them in like supermarket bags with blue ice packs. I just threw in there, and I throw them in the backseat of my car. I always brought my food with me, and I would prep in the morning. I never prepped it the night before because I was a big rice eater, and rice, rice tasted like shit, the next day for some reason. And on the days I didn't eat any carbs, I still wanted fresh food. So I would just in the morning, I would go through it all and I would cook it all. And really, I'm a speak. I probably should have worked as a short order cook someplace because I could make 6 meals probably in 20 minutes, really. I'm running all over the place and I'm cooking, and I know how to do everything with easy cleanup and speed. And once again, I would pack them all up, and I would always bring extra meals just in case, God forbid, I got caught on the Verrazano Bridge and I had no food with me, right? So, and I would put them in my car, and I knew I had them there when I would go out. This was only when I would do contest prep. Off season, I didn't care because I can go to McDonald's, I can go to restaurants and eat on those days. But when I was contest prepping, I made my own food. I didn't eat out. The only time I ate out was the cheat meal once a week.
That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave, again brought to you by Species Nutrition, Cuts Training and Fitness, and Liquid Sunrays. Some great content right now at RxMuscle.com. Yesterday, Dave's impassioned plea as to why he's convinced Kai Green will be at the 2019 Olympia. Tomorrow, we have Iron Rage with Lee Priest. Of course, Dave saying that Lee, of course, losing his mind, quote unquote. And then, of course, that blockbuster with Guy Cisternino. Again, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button below. Like this video. It helps us immensely. And, of course, as for all the questions that we talked about, as always, we appreciate your viewership. For our producer, Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.